Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really profound and honestly incredibly timely academic white paper by Dr. Bichara Sali titled The Tears of Life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever dealt with a system, maybe a hospital, a school, or a government office that loudly, constantly proclaimed how much it cared about you, but completely failed to actually help you? It's super frustrating, right? Well, today we are exploring a life-coherent framework for recognizing exactly why that harm happens, how we can restore the actual conditions of life, and ultimately how to reorient power toward true repair. So let's just dive right into the central question here. What actually happens when institutions perform the signs of life but completely fail to sustain it? It's a phenomenon that's at the very root of so much institutional frustration today. We're talking about a profound confusion between a symbol that simply points to life and the actual, tangible condition that keeps life going. To figure this out, we're going to move through 5 key areas from Dr. Sahali's framework. First up, symbols versus conditions. Second, the 3 layers of harm. Third, the grammar of life. Fourth, 7 steps of repair. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by applying it to the AI test case. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Symbols versus Conditions, or the core pathology. To really grasp this idea of symbolic substitution, we have to understand the core difference between a symbol and a condition. Symbols are essentially just pointers to meaning. Words like care, consultation, or progress, those are all symbols. A condition, on the other hand, is what actually enables life to survive and thrive. We're talking about literal protection, shared power, or ecological viability. Now, the danger, the real pathology, arises when the symbol completely replaces the condition. Imagine walking into a hospital that boasts a massive, shiny patient care first banner in the lobby, but then you're stuck waiting 12 hours just to see a doctor. The system proclaims care, right? But it leaves vulnerable people totally unprotected. Or think about an economy that celebrates the symbol of growth while actively destroying the ecological conditions that make life possible in the first place. Think about this stark contrast between a healthy dynamic and a broken one. In a functioning setup, healthy symbols point back to restoring real life capacity. The symbol serves the condition. But when symbolic substitution takes over, the symbol replaces life entirely. The system totally misrecognizes the condition, and as a result, life capacity is disabled. The symbol of intelligence replaces actual wisdom. The symbol of treatment replaces real healing. And the craziest part? The system becomes completely blind to the harm it's causing because it is just so busy protecting its symbols. And that institutional blindness leads us straight into Section 2, the 3 layers of harm. Let's map out exactly what happens when systems become protected from correction. Dr. Sahali maps this harm out kind of like a tree. Up at the canopy, you have the highly visible direct harm, like a wounded body or a displaced community. You can't miss it. But beneath that, hidden deep in the roots, is structural harm. This is the stuff like inequitable policies, resource extraction, or the heavy concentration of power. And finally, wrapping the entire thing up is cultural harm. This acts like a veil of ideologies, metrics, and performances. Basically, that symbolic substitution we just talked about, which somehow makes the injury seem perfectly normal or even necessary. Now, to remain completely impartial here, it's crucial to point out that this institutional capture happens across literally all human systems equally. Nobody gets a free pass. A religion might obsessively preserve the symbol of love while entirely failing to provide actual care and protection. An economy might preserve the symbol of value while disabling real ecological life value. Medicine, for instance, often prioritizes the symbol of the treatment procedure over the actual condition of healing. And politics? It might fiercely protect the symbol of representation while totally weakening real citizen participation. The system performs the care, but the underlying life condition remains broken. So, what do we do about it? That brings us to Section 3, the grammar of life. It is time to find the cure. The paper introduces a absolutely massive concept here called life capacity. And this is the ultimate test for any system, whether we're talking about a school, a federal government, or a piece of software. Does it or does it not enable life capacity? This is not some abstract academic theory. It's the concrete, real-world ability of living beings to breathe, eat, heal, learn, participate, and express themselves within a shared environment. If a system isn't enabling life capacity, it is flat out failing the most basic test of life. And that brings us to the central triad of Dr. Sahali's paper. For a system to be truly life-coherent, it absolutely has to do 3 things. First, it must help life continue by preserving its basic viability and integrity. Second, it must help life recover from harm by correcting errors and actually learning from feedback. And third, it needs to allow life to flourish by developing higher capacities like creativity, wisdom, and participation. Continue, recover, flourish. That is the baseline for a healthy system. But here's the real kicker. You don't just get those conditions in a vacuum. They are entirely dependent on relationships. And those relationships, they require attunement. You have to actually sense what life is undergoing. Attunement demands truthful feedback, and that feedback is what actually enables repair. If a system is misattuned, like if it actively blocks the feedback of the very people it's harming, it literally loses its ability to course correct. It's flying blind. Which brings us right to section 4, 7 steps of repair. How do we actually move from feeling outraged to finding a cure? When tracing this arc of repair, the starting point is super fascinating. When we witness harm, our default reaction is almost always outrage, right? And hey, outrage is useful. It simply notices a violation, it flags that this is wrong, but outrage alone isn't a cure. The tears of life mentioned in the title of the paper refer to a very necessary interior shift. Tears are the attunement that restores compassion. They make sure we don't just react with more hatred or performative anger. Instead, they ground us back in the reality that something living has been wounded, which makes true prophetic repair possible. Dr. Saheli lays out 7 exact steps for this repair. First, it begins internally. You start by seeing the wound and allowing the tears, really feeling the harm without denying it. Then you move to diagnosis, naming the false order that's masking the harm and identifying the missing life condition. From there, you got to dig into the mechanics, tracing the conserving pattern that's keeping the harm locked in place and working to restore the life relation. And finally, the ultimate goal, making the repair real. This means finding the minimal, sufficient intervention to restore life without creating a bunch of new harms in the process. It's a highly practical roadmap out of institutional failure. Actually, let's pause for a second on step 5, tracing the conserving patterns. What is really keeping a broken system stuck in place? Well, a lot of times it's our own deeply personal, totally unexamined inner algorithms. Basic human tendencies like fear, shame, loneliness, or status seeking. Now, those aren't inherently evil, but when they go unexamined, they get institutionalized. They scale up into massive systems of capture. Fear morphs into a permanent security regime. Status seeking hardens into rigid oppressive hierarchy. We have to name these inner algorithms within ourselves, or any new institution we build is just going to reproduce the exact same harm under a different name. Let's apply all of this to the ultimate challenge of our modern age in section 5, the AI test case, applying the framework. AI is a real game changer because it can take those inner algorithms we just talked about, externalize them, and totally accelerate them. Dr. Saheli proposes that AI can take on 5 potential roles, entirely depending on whether it's governed by life capacity or by institutional extraction. It can be a tool that quietly, helpfully assists us, an oracle we blindly surrender our judgment to, an idol that demands our absolute obedience, an enclosure that captures our data and monopolizes our attention, or, ideally, a commons that serves as shared infrastructure for everyone. And this is the massive takeaway here. The defining challenge of our time is avoiding AI as enclosure. That's the nightmare scenario where symbols of intelligence completely replace actual wisdom, and the machine captures human agency, privatizes knowledge, and limits our freedom. Instead, the framework argues we absolutely have to design AI as a commons. This means actively governing AI as a shared resource, one that supports real human education, strengthens our participation in society, and fundamentally respects our ecological limits. As we wrap up this explainer, the core takeaway is crystal clear. It really doesn't matter if we are talking about religion, economics, politics, medicine, or artificial intelligence. Our systems absolutely must remain corrigible. They must stay entirely open to correction by the wounded life they affect. The symbol has to return to the condition. And as Dr. Saheli brilliantly puts it, power must return to life, and the tears of life must become repair. So we're going to leave you with a final thought today. Think of this as a lens you can use to evaluate the systems you interact with every single day. Look closely at your workplace, your community structures, the tech you carry around in your pocket. Are they merely performing the symbols of care, intelligence, and progress? Or are they doing the hard, deeply necessary work of restoring the actual conditions of life? Keep asking yourself that question. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and keep learning.